In the hip-hop world, one of the biggest celebrities in the publishing of hip-hop entertainment is HipHopDX. And we have here the founder of HipHopDX, Tommy. He created this company as a teenager, and now it is an epic organization based in Hollywood with some of the best contacts and most interesting Rolodex of people in the hip-hop world. In addition to having some of the most amazing content, it's like addictive content. One of the most interesting things they did recently was a gamers versus hip-hop artists stream on Twitch where they played Street Fighter V. And you guys know that I'm a big video game fan. Now, he's also somebody who lived with us back in the day when we first moved to Hollywood and created Real Social Dynamics. Tommy was actually my roommate. We were living at Project Hollywood Mansion together. He has a lot of experience in terms of game and business, in terms of relationships. He's also a married guy like myself. He also has a massive skill set in terms of networking, making deals, and he's just an overall great guy. So we're very lucky to have him here today to share with you guys some of the interesting stories from the entertainment world straight from Hollywood. So you were telling me today that this is your first interview, so this is really awesome to have you here.
Well, you're a good friend of mine, Nick, so you know I'm glad to be here for you.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate that, bro. It was cool to have you be able to hang out with Owen by coincidence as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen the guy in a long time, but you know, we shared closets together.
Yeah. So yeah, for you guys back in the day, the master bedroom that I had a huge bathroom. This bathroom was the size of like half this floor. And there was closets attached to it. Tommy lived in one, Owen lived in the other. Now we both have multi-million-dollar companies, and you don't have to live in the closet anymore. You finally come out of the closet. It's awesome.
Finally come out of the closet, right?
Yeah. But it's really cool because now you're involved with all sorts of mentorship organizations like the Entrepreneurs Organization, yep, which is a bunch of entrepreneurs who make over $1 million a year doing forums. We just did a trip to Montreal. You networked. We just came by your office, which is in like the most ultimate location above a bar. Now, in terms of like networking though, and with all these entrepreneurs, successful people in the industry, how has being a part of mastermind groups helped HipHopDX take itself to the next level?
Listen, I think it's important to always keep learning, right? And I think a lot of the people who enjoy the RSD programs are always there are always trying to increase their knowledge base and become stronger as both individuals and improve their skill sets. And one of the things you do the best at when you're part of these mastermind groups is learning. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. But one of the interesting things that EO particularly provides is a thing called forum, where you're sitting around with 8 other entrepreneurs and you're talking about issues that you come up in, whether it's people problems, marketing problems, whether it's, I don't know, like website design problems. You guys are talking about it in a way, cash flow issues, you're talking about it in a way which is gestalt, and that's actually them telling a story. So you present your issue and then they tell you a story about that issue. They're not allowed to tell you how to do it, they have to tell a story of their own experiences. And I think that's really important because you actually know how they would act in a situation versus them just telling you what to do, which isn't really, that doesn't mean that they would actually do it, if that makes sense.
It makes sense because a lot of people don't feel like they're being listened to. And I know that Stephen Covey had his principle, always seek first to understand before being understood. And then this other group called Crucial Conversations. They did a training for RSD where they're talking about the power of storytelling, whereby everyone creates in their mind a story of how things should happen. And if you share your personal stories, that's cool. But when you create a story for somebody else, and it's not what they view as the story of what happened, as opposed to focusing on facts, you can create conflicts. And when things have high emotions and high stakes and a lot of potential risk and reward, I think that, yeah, focusing on those facts first, those objective things, is definitely very useful in terms of like creating an outcome of what you want. In terms of what you've done with HipHopDX, you guys have a massive following. I think you guys have 1.2 million people following you on Facebook alone, and then a massive amount of traffic. So you have this following, and you have to communicate your message in a very unique way. What are you doing to stay engaged with your audience and keep them captivated in what you're talking about in the hip-hop world?
Well, I think it's important to note that a lot of social media is changing almost every 6 months, so it's really hard to necessarily stay on top of it. And Facebook alone is trying to push the publisher parts of your feed down. They want you to have conversations, they want you watching more of your friends and families and their interests, instead of, even though they've liked your page, let you sort of excel in, you'd think that because they liked your page, your stuff should show up more on their feeds. It's not really the case. So what worked 6 months ago doesn't necessarily work now. But one of the things that we focus on, at least now, is trying to have fun with our page. So we're doing a little bit of comedy in conjunction with telling the user, like, hey, this is a new article that's on DX. You should come visit us when you think about a hip-hop article. And that's doing really well for us from an engagement standpoint.
The cool thing about being in a world like hip-hop is that you get to be around hip-hop artists. And it can be a lot of fun because you're hanging out with kind of like your idols, especially people that are kind of desired by people all around the world. They're fascinating, they're fun, and you kind of follow one of your passions. Now, a lot of people have always asked, how do you do high-end networking? How do you network with people that have so much celebrity status and get them really interested in staying engaged in what you're doing?
There's a lot of trend-based discussions that sort of have to happen. Sort of what's the hot new thing, what's the hot new topic. And one thing HipHopDX has been able to consistently do is always provide really good information to a fan base about what's going on in hip-hop culture. And because we've been able to do that, a lot of people have grown up on us. So there's a lot of artists who totally respect it because they remember going to HipHopDX when they were younger, going to the audio section, listening to music. It was their first introduction to music. So now what's happened is, part of it's a no-fear attitude, for sure. Like, you pick up the phone and I say, I'm the CEO of HipHopDX and I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Can you do this for me? Also, it's also knowing who to talk to, I like to talk to some of the PR people, but to be honest, if you don't talk to the manager, you don't really know what's happening. You're not going to get straight answers of what the artist can and can't do. And even then, you're not going to get straight answers, but at least you're only one removed from the artists themselves. And on the few occasions, you actually know the artist. And so you can just call them directly and ask them, can you do this? But you still got to make sure the layers are informed, the manager, the PR person, sometimes the record label. So there's a lot of relationships that you have to manage and sort of consistently be on top of and talk to. And sometimes you can't manage them all, so you have to actually have people who are in charge of different relationships as you sort of grow your business.
So it sounds like a lot of your relationship building is managing people that maintain relationships with the people that had the relationships to the stars, as opposed to doing that direct involvement. Right. And I could see that happening similar to RSD. We have instructors and they have instructor assistants, and usually the busy schedules make it so we actually have to talk to the administrations of the instructors to make things actually happen. Now, one of the things that's cool about what you guys are doing is that you guys not only have gotten involved with hip-hop, you've gotten involved with many different kinds of ventures. And I guess in terms of like how you've learned all these lessons in terms of business, you kind of being able to expand and jump around in all sorts of kinds of businesses. How do you manage your time in terms of like what you need to do towards focusing your time in terms of these various projects?
We've actually pulled back because I kind of have a more belief that we should focus on one sort of property. So while I've experimented with other properties before, there's a fundamental base that has to be created, a certain infrastructure that has to be created with each business that you have before you can expand to the next one. Just because business is hard, figuring out how to make another sale or to get people to read an article or to present certain formats on the web in a certain way that's easy to digest, or when new things like Snapchat comes into play and trying to create stories for Snapchat, because that's the new way a younger audience is consuming content. So right now, just because of such the change in the content consumption systems for the younger generation, I would personally, I want to focus just on the brand HipHopDX and try to take the message to each of the different platforms properly.
What sounds like the most fun. And I guess another thing about it is that you probably do a lot of your social circle networking, in terms of like business circle networking, like actually at events as well, bars, clubs, and what have you. How are you building the relationships using parties?
Well, for us, at least for HipHopDX, it has to have an online component to it. Like, how is it going to relate to our website? So throwing a party for the sake of throwing a party is not really our goal. Our goal is how do we get our user, our audience to interact with that experience. So it's really about an experience. And so when we did this Hip Hoppers and Gamers video game tournament, Street Fighter V, and you guys can watch it live on Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/HipHopDX. You can see the interactions and the artists coming in for interviews and the gameplay. And people on Twitch are talking about the experience and talking about MERS or Futuristic, or they're talking about Ray Shmurda, Slim Jimmy from Ray Shmurda. And that is an amazing conversation to be had and excitement to be had, and just a very natural, you're taking the artist away from the element, from the stage, and you're just having a natural conversation with them.
Do you notice that a lot of the hip hop artists that get involved with their promotional campaigns on HipHopDX also have been kind of spearheading new and innovative design and new and innovative ways of using social media and video? They've
had to. This is the blueprint that they're playing now. Wasn't the blueprint obviously 5 years ago? Snapchat wasn't a blueprint for them. Now DJ Khaled is, spearheading the way on Snapchat like nobody has ever. And so 5 years ago, everyone was focusing on their Facebook page. 6 years before that, people were focusing on their MySpace pages. And that was going to be the driver of their audience base and their traffic. It's different all the time. So all these artists have to be creative in their own new mediums.
I was talking to Tucker Max, and he believes that the future of all relationships, the future of all jobs is going to be more just about relationships, but utilizing technology. So no matter what happens, it's going to be all about building these relationships. Now, in a job that's super social, like your job, even though it has all the elements of the typical brick and mortar business, you're online and you also have all these relationships you build. What are some of the key things that you need to know in order to successfully network with other people?
I think you got to be open to understanding that when you're networking, don't really be looking for a benefit right away. Don't be looking for like, oh, how's this going to help me right now? It's really important to build a network of just people that you like and you want to just support and care about. And when you do stuff for them, you're doing stuff just, the goodness of your heart, and trying to connect them with people. For me personally, it takes a long time to find two connections that make really good sense, that I know that this person will like this person. So a lot of the stuff I keep in my back pocket. Like, I know them, it's great, but when I find something I really like, or when two people connect to me in my head, I'm like, oh, I can introduce that person to that person, let me connect them. Usually it's dead on right away, because I sort of wait a long time before I connect people, just because I want it to be I want to know that one person can help the other person.
Mutually, too. And I had a guy who was kind of like a guy I was trying to mentor, and he was trying to pitch me on a new tech company. So he was trying to get me to introduce him to people who are angel investors. And I told him, look, I'll introduce you to the mastermind groups, how to get involved, and then you can network using the skills that you've learned to do the networking you need to accomplish these goals. But I'm not going to just introduce you to a specific person, because I don't know if he's looking for exactly what you're doing.
And it's your name too, right? I
exactly.
mean, you develop these relationships with these people and they trust you, and you can't, it's really hard for people to understand that you can't bring them bullshit. Like, you can't bring them stuff that they're gonna spend money on or invest in or spend time to provide a service that is a waste of their time. And so when those relationships are created, yeah, you can go out for drinks and introduce them, and if they want to do business together, that's on them. But that's pretty much the extent. When you meet someone new and you're trying to, I guess, sell their wares to other people, that's as far as you should, as an entrepreneur, have to go, and they should take the ball. You should only be having to take it 5 yards down, 10 yards down. Now, if you, like you said earlier, if there's that perfect fit and you know that guy's looking for X, Y, and Z, and this guy's offering X, Y, and Z, yeah, you're going to put them together and make the right introductions and talk about it. But otherwise, when you're new to the game, you better think that that our job is only to take you 5 yards, 10 yards in, and you got to play the rest of the field yourself.
I think it's really interesting that networking is a skill set most people don't know. So as a result, they just ignorantly approach it in a way where they're not going to get turned down. Yet at the same time, every organization, every kind of industry has its own culture. Now, being a part of the entrepreneurs organization and hanging out with millionaires, CEOs, and entrepreneurs on a regular basis, you probably notice that each kind of person has like different things, but they're also similar. Yet at the same time, there's always like a unique culture. For example, in the pickup artist industry, there's definitely a cool like fraternity kind of vibe when you're interacting with other people. It's kind of bro-ish. Now in the hip hop culture, and when you're networking with other people, there's probably unique aspects about what you're doing as well, and I'd be curious about what those are.
the unique aspects of the networking within the hip hop space, your bullshit meter has to be pretty high in the networking, because there's a lot of people who can talk a lot of talk, and you have to quickly figure out if they're going to be able to they actually have the power they say they do. And they can bring a lot of things to the table, and then they fall apart in other ways. There's people we worked with in this event who sometimes certain people were promised to attend and it didn't happen. And sometimes it can be frustrating, but they may pick up in other ways, other different acts that can show up. And so you really have to be creative and stealthy and just consistently start asking questions. That's really what it comes down to, is you're asking a lot of questions to sort of find what the perfect benefit is there, if there is one, At the same time, you kind of got to still do it very naturally and very like with true to heart, that you don't necessarily want something from them. It's more like, hey, if something works out, great. If it doesn't, you can move on. But there's a lot of bullshit in this industry, and no one's explaining anything, right? So everyone keeps things very hush hush. No one explains to you how it works. So you have to dig. And there's a lot of light conversations which are like, yeah, man, okay, cool. Yeah, okay, I get that. All right, great. That's awesome. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that isn't a definite answer. A contract in front of them and them signing something is a definite answer. Like, those are things you have to realize, that you're going to have to go through a lot of that BS to get to the point or the real answer that you're looking for.
I've even had situations where the kind of mirror of this superficial, like Hollywood networking, has happened in deals that I've wanted to happen, so much so I've even offered to pay for the other party's attorneys just to move things around and get some paperwork and get actionable insights and actionable items being taken place, because I totally agree with you. There's so much bullshit, so much talk. You just want to clear the path and make things move forward to the future. And I guess one final thing I want you to do is just share with the audience any random thoughts that you had on top of your mind that you wanted to just let everyone know about.
Well, I personally, just something for you, Nick. It's just, we've been friends for a long time, and I just kind of want to say that from your heart standpoint, you've always helped me out when I've just needed to learn to grow. You've always helped me. You helped me explore LA together. That was really awesome when I was very young and coming from Canada, not really knowing the space. And so, I'm always here for you, for anything that you need. But you've just had no shame you've never held back from sharing experiences, sharing the way things work, talking about business, and I've truly appreciated that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I have your back, bro. We've had a long life together.
Yes, we have.
And many more adventures to come.
For sure. At least 10 years, if not 12 at this point.
Yeah.
12 or 13.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cool.
Thanks. If you guys enjoyed today's interview, check out the RSD Founders Club. It is a comprehensive program where I will break down everything that I know about networking, business, success mindsets, and relationships. And if you also enjoyed this interview, you'll get plenty more with some of the best mentors and mastermind members, from my strategy mentor to the people that I trust within Real Social Dynamics to deliver amazing concepts and content. Also, subscribe to my channel and get a lot more value